gonna let these last few people in,
Okay.
and then good morning, everybody. Today we'll be talking about Craig from HeadLight will be talking about the new progress payment tool. In particular, we want to target new projects that have been created recently or haven't created a progress payment. But at the same time, if you have an existing project that has historical data, that has historical payments, um, we we also encourage you to use the new progress payment tool. And um, there is a form that Craig will be sharing that will help us upload that historical data for you so that you can utilize the new progress payment tool. So with that, I'll hand it off to Craig. And I'll ask that if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Please feel free to put it in the chat. But we're going to try to get through this training, and then we'll be able to answer all of your questions afterward.
Thanks, Cord. Yeah, as mentioned, this is kind of directed at helping you guys get set up to do the first progress payment within HeadLight, and there's definitely some upfront work that needs to happen to make sure that works appropriately. First of all, last week we showed off the new project creation request, and some of the key pieces in there for progress payments are the approval roles for the progress payment and making sure that the pay items are in the system appropriately, because the contract has to all be set up correctly as well. As Cord mentioned too, we were actually set up a separate form here for in-progress projects to help give us that necessary information to get going with progress payments in HeadLight, because we may not have those appropriate approval roles, or we need to check that the contract is in there all correctly. So I'll be sharing this with Cord so that he can make it available in the appropriate places on the wiki, and maybe via email as well. But those are the key forms. And there's today I'll be going through this training deck that I have here, and I have it set up so that I can share kind of some slides on the side and then show on the other side what I'm doing as we do it, so that ideally you could then do similar. If we share this deck and you need to follow along to this deck, you could do so. There is a more concise PDF document of kind of the steps for progress payments as well. And we want to continue making some short demo videos that will be linked in our overall deck, but then also available. I think there's a YouTube as well that I'll try to get that info on. So we're continually adding to these training materials, but for today, we're limited on time, so I'm going to go through it relatively quickly, and it's meant as a first intro for many of you. And as part of that, we do need to go over just some basics of HeadLight. A key piece of creating a progress payment is to have the quantities in the pay item spreadsheet appropriately, and they need to be in approved diaries. So I'll just go through that part as a precursor to the actual document, progress payment document itself. So overall, we want you to be able to do those pay item tracking, creating it into the diaries, and then ultimately being able to set these up in the progress payment documents themselves. And as I mentioned, a key piece of that is making sure we have that upfront contract info and the correct approval roles. Oops. Yeah, so just for those that may not be super familiar, within Fieldbook, the web app or the iPad app that's being used in the field, inspectors are able to capture on the spreadsheets the info for the quantities being placed or for materials on hand received. That can all be entered. I'll show how that works. But those people likely need to be up to speed on how to capture those items if they're not doing it already. So we can always do other just Fieldbook training as needed. So I just wanted that here for reference. Obviously, you and any inspectors would need to be able to access HeadLight. So these are in here as reference in the slide deck as links. If you can't get into your account or anything like that, email us at support@headlight.com. We can always help with that. And then, of course, to pay anything, you're going to have to make sure you're on the correct project. So key aspect of that is being able to access the correct projects. We have some little micro tutorials on that. For today, I'm going to be working in this Maui Viaduct project. It's a bake project that has a contract set up, so I can demonstrate some of this without screwing up anybody's real jobs. And you can see I'm just logged in as Inspector Craig for my account today. So the first thing I mentioned, quantities to be paid need to be entered into the spreadsheets on the left. Oh, of course, I hadn't logged in for a little while, so I need to re-log in. And I'm going to go to spreadsheets, and pay items is where I'm primarily going to be working today. You can see this project has some previously entered pay items. This may be done by you at a previous date or other field inspectors, but this is where we need to check that we have all the quantities we want to pay. I can always create a new pay item by clicking on the plus here. You can see I made one earlier today even, and it's defaulted to May 15th, but I can always make one for a previous date. So if like we had forgotten to enter something on the 14th, I can select that and create a new entry for the 14th. It may ask for permission to add the location. That just is the geotagging behind the scenes of where this observation was recorded. And once you have a blank entry, here you can see I have one on the 14th, but you could have, whatever date you need. The key items to input are pay item, quantity, contractor. You can't always give more context, but these are the key ones. This is the contract for this Maui Viaduct project. Obviously, your project may have different pay items available. So if you needed, if you logged into this pay item spreadsheet and noticed that you weren't, if the quantity needed for, let's say, aggregate base course wasn't already in there, you'll be able to create these on whatever date you need. So if you're trying to create a progress payment for, say, the month of May, you might want to input these quantities on the last day of May if the quantities aren't already recorded by individuals in the field. You'll notice it automatically brought in the authorized quantity and the units. This has a very small authorized quantity. I'll just put 1 in this case. And then you'll want to, of course, indicate what contractor did that work as well. Once it's entered, you'll see this little green highlighting if it that indicates it's saving. The same thing can be done on the iPad app as well, but usually for individuals that are creating the progress payment, they'll likely be working on this web version of Fieldbook. So you can do it this way. There's also a way to account for materials on hand directly through this spreadsheet here. So the way I have it entered right here, it's indicating that that 1 cubic yard has actually been placed, but you could actually have a tag of materials on hand is a way that you can indicate that this was just delivered and not necessarily installed. You'll see when I get to the filling out the progress payment form itself, what that looks like. And you can even do negative quantities as well. If, say, they depleted a material on hand for this month, you could select whatever that pay item was, put in a negative quantity, and that appropriate tag. There are some other fields like notes, like if you just wanted to indicate like where it was stockpiled or whatever other information, you can add other context if needed. So as you can see on the left here, many of these quantities that are on this spreadsheet are already locked. That's what this little yellow indicator is. That means they're already in an approved report. This one I just created is not, however. This slide is just kind of showing how inspectors typically create the daily diaries, the project diaries. As they're doing it, they're creating all their observations in the field. That might include images, narratives, other types of observations besides this pay item spreadsheet. But they're ultimately clicking My Daily via this plus on the left, and then this little rocket ship button, My Daily, on the left as well. What that does is it pulls in all the observations those individuals have created on that date into a daily diary, and it just kind of does it automatically. In this case, I've actually created an entry on a previous date, so that won't work for me because if I hit that, it won't find that observation. So what I need to do is actually just select it on the web. That's these little check boxes. On the iPad, there's a blue select button, and then you can tap on whatever observations you want to select. I could do multiples. All the other ones are approved already, so I don't need to put them in a diary. So I'm just going to select this one in this case. And then at the bottom, there's a button for create document. And when I click on that, you'll see the default is project diary. I can have it dated or named whatever I want. Maybe this was my end of May quantities. I can title it however I want, and this could help indicate that this was my kind of truing up of various quantities at the end of the month for the progress payment. And if I create that diary, it gives me this little shopping cart type view. You'll see it has that title. It's in draft status, and I need to submit it. Most users that are creating progress payments are office level users, engineers that are usually able to review documents, so they should be able to approve their own diary. If not, we may need to adjust their permissions, or they might need to add or ask another engineer on the project to approve that diary. Once approved, you'll notice it locks that diary. And if I dismiss it and go back to the spreadsheet, you'll see now all of my May pay quantities are now locked and approved, which is what we need for the progress payment. So this slide here actually shows I only selected that one item because I only had one of them created, but you could always set the filter for, say, the whole month of whatever quantities you're wanting, and you can use the select all button and then create a diary out of all of them if you had maybe several that needed to be in an approved diary. I just approved that diary, and I confirm that all of my pay items are now locked. The process for creating your progress payment then is very similar. I want to include all of my May items in that progress payment, so I'll select all of May. But you can set this for whatever time frame you need to do the progress payment for. Maybe that's even 2 months if there was a reason you didn't pay out for a while. And once I've found all of the relevant quantities, I'm going to hit select all. Just like the diary, I'm going to hit create document at the bottom. But rather than project diary, I'm going to do progress payment. I can give it a title here or change the date. I'm going to actually just leave it for now. And you'll see it gives you that similar shopping cart type view to your project diary. It shows the pay items that are included. You can actually alter the title here if needed, or the date if you needed to change that, but I'll call it May, or keep it simple. Whatever you want it to be called, you can do that here. And then the key is filling out the form. So this is a form rather than a report. When you are in the diary, that's a report, which is purely just a collection of observations. A form is more of a fillable PDF or a document that does more advanced calculations in HeadLight. And by going into this, you'll notice it opens a separate tab. And an important note, which you'll see on the slide on the right here, is if you already have created another progress payment document on this project that isn't approved, so you have another open one, you may see this big alert at the top. It would show up here above the header, indicating that you already have one open because it doesn't want you to work concurrently on two different documents. So it's going to direct you to go to that previous document, and you might be able to just delete this new one that you had made. First, it's going to ask you just to review this header information. You can see a lot of it's automatic. It should be set up in the contract itself in HeadLight. So it's just called progress payment. The date here, actually, I was wanting this to be for May. So I can change that. All these fields are somewhat automatic, but you can manually change them if you need to. You'll notice this contractor actually doesn't have an address input. So that's something we could update in the contract information to make sure it shows up automatically moving forward. And then it has the overall contract information. You can see here the estimated obligation is the same as the original contract. If you approve change orders on the job, that will increase while the original contract amount remains the same. There's a field for time elapsed too, and that's something you can manually calculate. We're working on future improvements for this project or progress payment process. And this may get changed so that it's more of a automatic process, or we're exploring looking at the weekly statement of working days as another document to track in HeadLight. So that is something that might change over time, but right now it's a manual entry right there. And then as you scroll down in the form, the next area is called payment totals. And you'll notice, I mean, this is the first payment for this job. So of course, the grand total paid previously is 0, not including this payment is 0. And you can see just for those few items that I included in here, it's totaling up to just $2,100. So this header, all these things are kind of calculated. So if something doesn't look correct, you'll actually need to maybe go back to the pay item spreadsheet, review what was in there. One thing that can throw it off is if the pay items themselves aren't in an approved diary, that would prevent them from showing up in here appropriately. So that's something to review. And then you'll see these little headers for materials on hand, liquidated damages, retainage, and we'll get into those here just below. So all these get populated, this payment totals from sections down below here. So the pay item ledger, this section is where you're going to see all of the individual pay items that we included from the spreadsheets. You'll see that it pulls in most of this pay item information somewhat automatically. So it knows the approved quantity in the contract. It's 35,000. In that case, it's indicated as participating. It's not extra work and no quantities have been paid to date. The participating info is adjustable if needed. So you can manually change it. It should default to what is in the contract, but we are actually working on improving some of these features as well to make it automatically recognize these better. And you'll see other improvements here in the near future for like materials on hand and retainage as well. So I'm not going to highlight all that, but there's a few buttons here as well where you can expand all or collapse all. You'll see it gets rid of those individual entries and just shows you the totals for each pay item. So that can be helpful. And then this print preview button gives you more of a view of what it actually will look like in the printed PDF when you complete this. So the ledger up here is only showing the items that are impacted by the pay items I included. But then, of course, in your printed final version, it includes all the different pay items, whether you've paid them or not in this document itself. Next is materials on hand. So you can see I did actually include if I go back to my spreadsheet over here, I included materials on hand. Where was it? This one. So I had 1 cubic yard of this aggregate base course, and you'll see that gets pulled over into my document. I have this window a little bit narrow for the double screen here, but it has all that pay item information, the item cost, the quantity that I included, and the total over here. So I can change what this unit cost is to get the value I'm looking for the material on hand calculation. I'll just do 100. And this total that you come to for materials on hand amount should then be reflected up in the payment totals as well. So here you can see that. If that's one way to enter materials on hand, I did that via the tag on the pay item spreadsheet itself. But you will notice at the bottom of this section, there are buttons. Again, you can preview what that'll look like in the PDF, but you can actually also manually add a materials on hand directly in the PDF if you didn't do it via the spreadsheet. So to do that, I would click on the pay item and find whatever pay item I wanted to indicate as a material on hand. And then again, you can adjust whatever that cost is to be whatever you're wanting as a total. And that should be reflected up again in the payment totals. Next, I have liquidated damages. And similarly, there's nothing in here right now, but you can add one with this button. There's again a print preview section. See what that would look like in the PDF. So I can enter whatever I need to here. You can make a note, time delay, whatever the issue is. I can say they delayed things by 5 days and that cost $50. So you can do whatever you need to get the totals you need for that liquidated damage. And you'll notice it is showing up as a positive value here, but that does indicate in the payment totals as a deduction. So don't fret if you're seeing a positive number there. It's actually deducting that liquidated damage. Next, I have retention. So here too, I don't have anything in here yet, but you can add a retention. You don't have to select a pay item necessarily. It could just be a general project retention, but I'll select a retention for some item here. I'll say it's related to that item, and I can retain whatever value I deem necessary. And you can see that there's nothing retained before this period. This is my first payment, so it doesn't have anything recorded. But after approval of this payment, this retained amount does get saved. And when you create payment number 2, you'll be able to see that retained amount from before, and you could put in a negative value if, say, you're taking that money back. And again, you'll be able to hit print preview to see what that looks like in the PDF type view as well. There is a working days section in the PDF here, as I mentioned at the top in the header info. It's not yet a thing that we can do within the document, like indicating X amount of working days. That's something that may be coming, so you can ignore this section for now. And then after that, we have uploaded files. So pretty simple. You just hit add file. It lets you choose. I'm on the computer, so it's going to find whatever files I want within my computer. Let me actually go. I actually have a force account template. So this is something you may need to put in on your project if you've completed a force account document in ACC build. Actually, my next slide is more specific to force account. You guys may be completing those in ACC, and you're supposed to attach those to the applicable progress payment. So download the file from there, find it, upload it in here, and this is what it looks like after it's attached. You can attach as many files as you need, like if you had other justification for different payment items or maybe clarification documents, whatever it is, you can attach as many documents as you need, but the force account is a key one if applicable to this payment. After that, there's these few different sections that are all related to the submission and approval of the document. You'll notice there are no signatures here. So those show up as different people review and approve the document. And that all shows up in this approval log, and that people do have the ability to add comments as that happens as well. There are key buttons along the bottom here for that. Obviously, if I'm the creator of this progress payment, I would again want to come up to the top and review my whole payment totals. Does this look like the correct amount that I want to pay? And my header information is correct. I can add other notes if needed as well. But once I'm done making all these edits and updates, I definitely want to hit this save button. Change is saved, and that makes that document ready for approval. So on the right then, this little 3-bar menu, if you hover over it, it says actions, but it's not that obvious perhaps just looking at it. But in here is where you're going to be able to, as the creator, submit it. As a reviewer, if you're a reviewer, you'll always be able to come in and view the document, and the action button will give you the approval buttons as well. You can always download the PDF of it, or it can even be duplicated if there's a need for that. The discussion section is kind of like where people can add comments as needed. But a useful thing that might be good to check is this little alert button, I guess. And that is kind of a way to see if there are any potential problems that you might want to look at this before submitting it. One key thing that I've seen pop up in here quite often is if pay items are included in that document that weren't in an approved diary, it'll indicate that in here. So you'll be able to see like pay item for guardrail is not in approved diary, and then I'll give you that warning. I'm going to say now that I have what I need on this, I'm going to actually submit it. And you'll see it added my signature to that and the date. And then that shows up in the approval log as well. As the creator of the document, I may be done with it at that point. And the key thing for this approval workflow, I think I showed you in that setup document for the project intake form. We need to know the appropriate roles so that the correct approvals can be set up. I just approved or created that document and submitted it as like this number 1 step. But we need to set the engineer or RE for the first approval, a contractor so that they can approve it, and then a CE and a DE. I'll get into that a little bit more here, but a key thing to know is upon submission, it should alert that engineer, whoever's assigned, RE or engineer, that the progress payment is available for their review. And it has a link even for them to go find it and look at it and approve it. And that email gets sent at each step of that approval. So once the RE or engineer approves it, the contractor gets a similar email, the CE will, and the DE will. So there can be multiple people that are allowed this action. We can set the role to more than one person if necessary. But that part is all being managed by HeadLight currently. So if, say, you're the CE or the contractor and you cannot do an approval that you're expecting to approve, contact us. We can usually pretty quickly add those roles or adjust them as necessary. But we're definitely working toward giving the DOT or some individuals the ability to do these as well, to just help expedite. And self-management is the goal, of course, but we're still just getting this rolled out. And contact support and the QRSE Econ group can help with that as well. So that's that. So I submitted this as Inspector Craig. I actually gave myself the role of engineer as well. So I'm going to be the first one to approve this document. You'll see it says waiting for engineer approval. I could always download the PDF to review what that looks like if I want to see it in that type of view. So there, you can print it out if you really want to look at it on your desk or something too. Or I can go into that fillable PDF view again. But then if I think everything is good, I can hit approve as the engineer. And you'll notice then it says waiting for contractor approval. And at any of these steps along the way, you can see the history. That includes all the steps of that approval. You can always add a comment if you're the approver, or especially if you're going to reject it for some reason, that's when you might want to leave a comment. And under actionable users, you'll see the people that can now take action on that. So I've included Abraham Lincoln here as the contractor. So I can't take action on it, and I would have to, old Abraham here would receive an email saying he has the ability to take action on this now. So what I can do, log out and log in as Abraham. So the next step in the approval is the contractor. And he should have gotten this via an email, and that would take him directly to the form for approval. But as the contractor, he'll have access to this payment form dashboard where he'll see any of the payments that he has access to. So if you could be on more than one project, for example. In this case, Abraham Lincoln only has access to this Maui Viaduct one. So I could go into this May progress payment to review it. There's also buttons on the right for details and discussion. You can't even filter, like if you just want to see certain projects. So I'm just going to click into this May one, where that contractor can then review the document. And similar to before, you can leave comments in a discussion or add questions perhaps that are then a part of the record of that document. And they can then take action and approve or reject, download, all these things. Let's say the contractor then approves it. That will then send a notification to the CE that they need to approve this document. And I need to log out and log in as that CE. So the CE should have access to that project. They might have to navigate there to find it, or if they click the link directly from the email, they might be able to just go right directly to that document. But I'm going to go into this May progress payment. I'm logged in here as the CE, and you'll see waiting for construction engineer approval. Again, this person can download the PDF or view it in its fillable form. I'm going to approve it. And again, in the history, you can see the full list of transactions and then the actionable users for the CEs or for the DE now. So I'm going to log in as a DE for the final approval. And I'm already on that correct project. And I'm going to go to the forms. Oh, I guess a note here, you'll notice on the forms tab, there are all the other forms on the projects. There's JC cards, maybe other types of documents. You can always search for keywords like payment or progress and see just the documents related to that, if that helps you find different things. I'm going to go into it and you'll see here as the DE, now I can approve. And upon that final approval, it locks that document. It says approve final, and I can see the full history of what happened to it. And it should, at this point, the key thing that it does is it'll take all those approved quantities. So for example, I had some aggregate base course in there, I believe. It'll put that into the contract information in HeadLight as an installed quantity. And on the next progress payment number 2, you'll see that previously installed quantity. It'll carry over any of the materials on hand, and you would go through the same process to create your payment number 2. You would have to make sure all your pay items are in there in an approved diary, select that next time period, create another progress payment document. Of course, you have to make sure the previous one was approved. It'll only let you edit one at a time. And that is your first intro, perhaps, to progress payments in HeadLight. As I mentioned, we're still working on additional improvements to this. For example, one thing I know we're trying to do often on your projects, you might have an automatic retention up to, say, 50% of contract completion. Right now, you'd have to manually type that in or calculate that 5% or whatever the number is and put it into your payment. But we're looking for options to have like an easy select or an automatic thing that shows up. It'll, of course, still be editable. So along those lines, like I said, the working days, that retention, there's other improvements that might be made, and suggestions are definitely welcome. So that is what I had for these training slides and a demo. Obviously, if you're looking to get going on a new project, we ask that you fill out that new project intake form that goes to our team to set up the contract and the approval roles. That other one that I showed briefly was for setting up in progress projects to use progress payments. That's something we're working on doing right now. It takes a little more upfront work because we have to maybe manually recreate any payments you did outside of HeadLight to make sure your previously paid amounts are up to date. So if you're on payment 4, we would have to get 1, 2, and 3 in there and make sure it's accurate for you to be able to do number 4. So that's the point of that intake form, is to allow you to attach those previous payments and the contract info. And it might take us a little bit to just verify that it's correct. So I'm going to work with Cord and team on the best process to do that. So don't necessarily jump at that. We'll be reaching out to individuals in progress projects as needed in the near future here. So I did have this final slide. Just thank you for your time. As I mentioned, I'm Craig, and this is the first of these trainings, so I appreciate any feedback you have. We have this QR code you can even go to fill out a little survey on how it went, suggestions, all that, and your feedback is appreciated. All right, Cord, I suppose we could open it to some questions.
Yes.
Or you could comment if you
At
need.
first, yes. So we'll open it to questions, but at first I want to address the questions in the chat. So Calvin asked, having no signature lines is problematic. HeadLight generator cannot self-assign as needed. So I'm not entirely sure what you mean by no signature lines is problematic, because as it goes throughout the process, Calvin, the signature lines will show up with the signature. And I get what you mean by HeadLight generator cannot self-assign as needed in case there's a TA or if you need to send to somebody else. But that's the reason why that HeadLight has the new project creation form edited, so that you can enter in the approval workflow. And if it needs to get changed, then we reach out to HeadLight. And obviously, you've said below that a couple of progress statements got hung up. Yes, and so HeadLight will work on being able to respond to that. And also at the same time, we're working on user management in the background. So at some point in the near future, someone at HDOT will have the ability to reroute the progress payments. It won't just be through HeadLight. So that's near ready to be able to do that. So that will hopefully capture those issues. Marvin asked, how do we print a draft of pay estimate as a project engineer so that we can check with contractor before routing for approval? So you can do that by when you submit the progress payment or when it's still in draft. You can download a PDF and send it to the contractor however you want to check it before it automatically gets sent through the it gets sent through the approval workflow process officially. And then contractor needs to review and submit their DBE form, or has that changed? No, I do know for Oahu, the DBE form is submitted with the progress payment in the email to fiscal or the email to SF and OCR after the progress payment is signed. So there's two options which you can do. You can attach it just how like the force account was attached to the progress payment in what Craig showed you, or you can just continue to do it at the step of sending it to SF with the PDF.
Yeah, if you're ever on this forms tab too, there you can always download the PDF of that document here, or you can even email someone directly from within HeadLight. It knows the addresses of everybody assigned to that project, but you can type in any email address as well to email that document.
Okay, and Ryan asked, my first progress payment needs a signature from the CE, but no one was assigned. Okay, Ryan, so please send us an email, or if you haven't already. If you have sent it already, please forward it to us so that we could work with HeadLight to get that moving. And Craig, I know, can easily reroute it very quickly. So don't want to be a blocker on any payment. So please let us know and we can address it immediately.
Thank you.
I saw, Glenn, you had your hand up. So if you had a question.
Yeah, just following up on the third question from Marvin. When we do a progress payment, can the contractor be able to see the ledger part of the progress payment?
I'll let Craig answer that question.
Currently, yes, I believe they can see the ledger because they can access that document PDF through there. Is that what you're looking for?
No, I believe when you download it, you don't see the ledger. You can only see it online, right?
Oh, yes, they will have access to that online version to view the ledger. So I can log back in as
The
Abraham.
contractor, yeah. So the contractor has their own portal that they're viewing the progress payment. So it's not going to be the downloaded PDF version. It's going to be whatever they can see in
Mhm.
their portal, which is right now the ledger is able to be seen.
Yeah, so they can't go to Field Book to see all your other observations or anything, but they can go into the document. And see this ledger information here.
Yeah, when you click that down arrow or the blue arrow, you can expand the ledger, right?
Oh yeah, in this case, I only had a
Yeah.
single item for each of these, but it would show each and every one.
Yeah.
And they could hit this print preview section to see that too, but this one's already approved, so it's not letting me do that right now.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of our issue, because as soon as we approve everything, we don't see what we paid unless we go back to to the other part of the progress. I mean uh yeah, we don't see it over here. I was wondering if there would be an update later so that we can at least print what we paid
Oh, okay.
on the force account side. I mean, on the
Yeah, so
progress payment side.
yeah, so the final PDF has all the pay items, but you're wanting a view that has just the
Yeah, so at
paid
least,
pay items,
yeah,
right?
it may not be the final progress payment, but at least, because right now I don't think we can print it, right? Unless we uh, take a picture of it or
Well,
stuff. But
yeah, this is the final PDF
yeah,
of it, and it has all those in it. But like you said, you might have to sift through for the ones that were actually included in this payment rather
yeah,
than
yeah,
seeing just those. So maybe that's an improvement we could make, is have a way for you to download just the items that were included, if that's what you mean.
yeah. Anything that we paid under that item that we are paying,
Mhm.
like on a daily basis. Ledger.
Okay. Yeah, we can see if there's anything we can do to improve that. Excuse me. Looks like there's another question. We have to get the contractor registered, trained on HeadLight. Kind of, yes. We have been setting up accounts for those individuals as needed on the pilot projects to date. We have some guidance documents that we've shared, like PDFs of just what I was just showing, the part where they were logging in and how to approve the document. They're only doing a small portion of everything we just went through. So we have a short guidance document for that. I'm hoping in the very near future to make a quick YouTube video for those individuals. You received this email that says you can review a progress payment. Here's what you see when you click into it. Here's how you review it. Here's how you can add comments and approve or reject. So we're definitely working on better materials for that. We can definitely help any individuals here in the near term, like have them reach out, or yeah, maybe we do one of these sessions just for contractors if necessary. So let us know what you think might be needed for that. Looks like there's another question from Marvin. District office will not be requiring to see the DBE form when the pay estimate is routed for approval. I thought they do require to see it. Final approved pay estimate sent to fiscal would have the DBE form attached.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so that's
I can take that question,
okay.
Craig. So Marvin, yes, you can confirm. You can confirm that with the people that are signing your progress payment. But if that is needed, then you can attach it just how like Craig showed you for the Force account. You can attach a PDF to the payment that will be routed for approval. So there are options for both ways. So it's really you just confirm with the people signing your progress payment.
And another thing we're exploring here as an improvement would be that when this gets finally approved by the DE, that it can just send automatically to fiscal the necessary documents, and that would include any attachments. That's something we're looking at doing as well.
Final question I see Nainoa asks, will the issue of adding and deleting pay items on the progress payment be addressed? Currently, when we add new pay items, some other pay items will randomly be deleted. So that is a problem on the manual payment form, which is the old form. This is a completely new form that doesn't have the issue of when adding new pay items, the rows are going to be deleted. So this payment will not have that problem, Nainoa.
Yes, we have not been updating that format because we want to go forward with this.
Thank you. I know.
Mhm.
Thanks for the questions. We have 7 minutes left. Is there any other questions while we have everybody on? Craig, I saw that Ryan forwarded that email, so we'll be sure to work on that ASAP and get that switched. And as far as anybody else who needs rerouting of a progress payment to a TA or a different person, please forward or send the email to us or to Econ support and HeadLight support and Craig so that we can address it as soon as possible.
Mhm.
I guess, Cord, I just had a question.
Mhm.
You know, these trainings for HeadLight and whatnot,
Mhm.
how is the distribution list getting sent out, I guess?
So this distribution list for the office hours is from ACC and HeadLight. It's a list that we've pull and update. If you need to add other people, if there are some people that are missing from it, you can either forward this the meeting series, or you can just let us know and we can add people to it.
Okay. I was just trying to see if there's an easy way to whoever is, I guess, listed in HeadLight for the owner side,
Mhm.
That they just get an email and if they can pick and choose which ones, but just so
Yeah.
I don't miss folks, but
Yeah. No,
if
we
I
can
need to go
definitely.
forward that.
I don't want to speak for HeadLight when being able to pull information, but we could definitely get something and send over a list to you so that you could see if you want to add or remove people from it.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll note that down and get that over to you, Randall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like Marvin asked one more about if an error was identified after two pay estimates were approved. Let's see, how would you make that correction? I guess how is that dealt with currently? If say you already paid too much or too little for something, I'm not that familiar with it.
Well, Marvin, if you paid too much or if you paid too little on a previous payment, then wouldn't the error just stay on that payment and then you would make adjustments on the next payment based off of that? Why would you want to go back on a payment that was already signed and approved and theoretically locked, right? And make adjustments to that payment? I would think you would just make revisions and the necessary adjustments and on the next payment. But please, if anybody else has thoughts on that, let us know. Yes, Calvin, yes. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying on that.
Mhm.
We have 3 minutes. Any other last minute questions? Okay, and I know, so the old progress payment systems stay on the old system. So any manual payment that is on the old system, it will still be in HeadLight's system. So you'll still be able to access that documentation. But ideally, all of your signed and executed progress payments are documented in ACC previous to the new progress payment in HeadLight. But for this new automatic payment system, it will be obviously in the system, and we'll be able to keep track of that in HeadLight. And as we add the existing projects from using external tools, what Craig is going to do is he's going to populate and replicate what the old the historical information from the progress payment. So either way, you'll have the information in HeadLight before using the new progress payment tool. So Calvin, manual payments be converted to new process? Yes, but it's at the moment it's kind of a manual process of replicating payments. But obviously you won't have to deal with that. The HeadLight team and the econ team will make sure that those historical payments are uploaded and updated to the point where you can use the new progress payment tool with all the historical data there. Okay, thanks for all the questions. If you have any more, please let us know. Send it to the econ email, send it to the HeadLight support email, send it through the new HeadLight support request form. And as we said before, if you have new projects, please utilize this new progress payment tool. If you have existing projects that were using an external tool, please let us know and send us the historical data so that HeadLight can populate it and you can start using the new progress payment tool moving forward.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody.